Well, we're all back once again, and we are now married. Holy shit, we're married. I can't thank you enough for all of the well wishes. It's been completely overwhelming. I think Elsa spent maybe like 2 hours last night, 3 hours last night, just going through all of the comments. She literally reads every fucking comment. She reads every fucking comments, even the mean ones, even the very mean ones. But you know what? It was really, really overwhelming. I just want to say again, massive thank you for all of the well wishes on our very special day. It was very nice. It was just a very, small ceremony with very close family there, and yeah, man, it was quite nice to finally get married after almost 9 years being together. But it is what it is. That's just how we do things over here. Anyways, hope everyone's doing well on this nice little Wednesday morning. We got a few new things to be speaking about. As yesterday, Bitcoin is still continuing to play out this sort of chop range that we've been speaking about for the past week or maybe even a week and a half now. And I do think that this is going to continue on for a little bit more, going onwards and forwards here. I think that the people who are looking for this to V-bottom out back to new all-time highs exactly from this moment, probably not correct, or at least yesterday would have really been that, that opportunity for Bitcoin to do something like that. And instead of course, finishing the day above the very, 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 very important number of 112,000 US dollars, it did not. It rejected exactly from that moment. So that is, in my opinion, very conclusive and does lead up the likelihood for, a corrective period to continue ongoing, maybe for the next couple of weeks here, as we do look for a few targets a little bit lower, although I'm not necessarily full on bearish. Now, here's the thing. I do think that if you believe in the 4-year cycle, if you are a 4-year cycle homo, you should be believing that, yes, indeed, the cycle is actually over. But I'm not necessarily of that opinion, at least not right now. I am open-minded towards it. But hey, I'm a marriage homo right now. I'm a married homo. That's right. You're a married homo. I'm a married homo. We're all married homos. Even if you're not a married homo, you're a married homo too. That's fucking right, baby. And it's 2025, so everyone should be. Everyone should be. What's up, Mr. Bear Nutrition? Good morning to you. Vahid Gabel, good morning to you as well, man. Chris, thank you for that, sir. Sabrina Nugent, good morning to you. And thank you as well. Patrick, Tony, Whiskey Bravo, the Bassin Bruce, or is it the Basin Bruce? I'm not quite sure. Shipwreck, good morning to you, man. Norco, 21 before the Savage, once upon a time. Holy fucking shit, man. It is just crazy right now in Zonkard as well. And I do want to say a very quick shout out to my mate over on Instagram, Mr. The Strangelet. Happy birthday to you, man. It's a nice little Wednesday birthday here. So happy birthday, sir. And we shall move onwards and forwards as we get through this one. I need to get my chats up on over here. No honeymoon. I mean... we got work to do, baby. We got work to do. I feel like we've done so many honeymoons. Yes, we will have a more dedicated one going, in the future. But for right now, I think we're quite happy with where we're at. So every day kind of feels like a vacation, to be honest, man. Florida's just a crazy place like that. Anyways, I need to polish off the rest of this caffeine. Then we'll get into some good old fun action. I do want to check out traditional markets because traditional markets have been looking quite different to Bitcoin, in particular these last few days, or really these last few weeks, actually. So I do want to check in on them, but just one moment. I've been buying this pre-made cold brew espresso. It's fucking amazing. It's actually really, really good. I think it's by the company Busy. No affiliation with them, obviously not. But my point is that, hey, if you're looking for something a little bit cleaner, that is a really, 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 really good caffeine, at least ingestion that I've been on recently. Anyways, go check out some traditional markets here, see what they're doing. Let me go to this chart right here. Let's go see what SPY futures are opening up around, as we do got another 15 minutes to go until U.S. markets open, trading around those prior highs. I don't know. I guess if this one is going to reject, this would be kind of the place to, I suppose, reject from. But so far, so good. Not really any major concerns with this as of right now. Weekly still is bullish to me. And yeah, it's like any little dip that you get is more or less what you're going to get before continuation. That's the beauty of traditional markets. I've been harping on this a lot, especially since the reversal happened in 2023 with traditional markets, because one of the major things that I did is I went back and I studied all of these prior bull market cycles, and it really is like that. After you have a major consolidation, of which we did, of course, back in 2022 over here, it really does seem that as soon as you make new all-time highs, you kind of have to pull every little pull, or you kind of have to bid every little pullback that happens after that. Yes, they seem really nasty in the moment, but at the end of the day, these are just major opportunities as this thing continues to trudge upwards and onwards. And as I do more research into the sort of, I don't want to say fundamental scheme, but just what's going on in the background, it does seem very clear that the plan right now, especially in the U.S., is currency debasement. It's not necessarily a plan. It's more like like a forced debasement. We almost have to at this point. And in these sort of environments, assets are the best things to be holding. Of course, commodities can be held as well, like gold. I think gold's been doing quite well. But I also was looking at gold yesterday and thinking this might have actually topped at this point. Let's go check it out right now, see what it's looking like. And I wouldn't say it's a conclusive top just yet, but it's definitely a short-term / medium-term swing high right here. Absolutely. We did say that yesterday, and it has followed through with that. Give it a chance to bounce in the short term here. Wouldn't necessarily call like a major macro high just yet. It's a little bit too early to do such things. But hey, if the monthly starts to end something like this, or especially below 4,000, that would look really good to me as a as a major macro high that should act as a high for I don't know, like at least I would imagine a while, like 6 months, 12 months, maybe even for many moons. But again, long term, this is one mega massive macro uptrend. So if it did top out here, comes down all the way to, let's say, like $3,000 and base is there for, I don't know, I mean, it can take many months, maybe even a few years, that would still be a higher low. That would still be long-term bullish. So it does seem like the world, or at least China, is very much is trying to recapitalize on gold. And I guess we're going to find out if the rest of the world, or at least if enough people or enough countries in this world actually want to follow suit with them. I've seen some really, really interesting commentaries on this. Now, this is kind of above my head and above my pay grade, but it does seem like there is, there certainly is a threat of that. But then again, is a multipolar world that bad? We've had a multipolar world not even that long ago. It was, of course, during the USSR versus the USA, which was mostly the time frame between 1950 to I guess 1990, actually, when the USSR fell. And that was a multipolar world. And the US, was, I mean, people look at that time as like the US's golden years. That was the best time. So is it really going to be all that bad? I don't know. It's hard to say. What I can say, however, though, is the same that I've been saying now for like about a month and a half, which is I feel very much obligated to just yell at the top of my fucking lungs, don't hold fiat currencies. Go, at the very least, put your extra cash, put your excess cash in a money market. At the very least, then you can, ideally at least keep pace with inflation. And then, of course, if you can't afford a little bit of excess cash, then I would definitely put it in equities or commodities, something like gold, something like silver. Maybe not at these levels, obviously. This, in my opinion, not the best time to be doing it. I think we're at a major high right here for gold, for example. But equities and whatnot, if you do have a more long-term view, I don't think it's the worst thing of all time. At this moment, yes, there will be pullbacks. Yes, there can be very nasty pullbacks, of course. But if you are looking, 10 years down the road, it's not the worst thing to be getting into, to be honest. So yeah, that is something, I feel more and more inclined to speak about as time goes on. That's why I've been doing more and more videos on sort of financial education, because I feel like once you understand financial education, you understand you will understand the system. You will understand how to make the system work for you. And I think it also kind of helps assuage a lot of these, what I think are very naive beliefs with people believing that, the whole system is rigged and all this kind of bullshit. No, it's not rigged. It's just people don't fucking tell you about it. It's all there out in the open. It's just no one has the patience to go read through all of this shit, because it's thousands and thousands of pages of legal speak, which is very difficult to understand if you're not a lawyer. And now that we have ChatGPT, it makes it a lot more easy to digest. But at the end of the day, if you understand the system, it's not rigged, or maybe it is rigged, but at least you can play alongside of it as well. Now, I personally don't think that it's rigged. I think it's just difficult. But once you actually start to invest time into learning these things, which is why I'm trying my best to get this out on this channel, you really do understand how it is designed to work and how you can make it work for you. And if you do play the system in the way that it was designed, it actually does benefit you quite significantly. As I've been saying, and I'm sure that this is not like a unique statement, I'm not the first person to say this of all time, but we have a K-shaped economy. The people who hold assets, they are going up. It's a fucking bull market. Life is great. Life is beautiful. Things are going very, very well. If you do not hold assets, you are on a mega downtrend, and you've been on a mega downtrend for a very, very long time, actually. In fact, ever since the 1970s, for sure, when we got off the gold standard, but it has been kind of hidden behind relatively low inflation. Now that we've had sort of these periods of very high inflation, that can very much damage that sort of system and really, really does hurt those people. So, if you are keeping cash on the side, I'd say at the very least, highly consider putting it in a money market. And by the way, most major investment platforms like Fidelity, like Schwab, they will actually give you a debit card card linked to your account, so you can just pull that money straight out of your money market account, and that way, at the very least, again, you are keeping pace with inflation. Now, like many people have said in the past, and probably have said in the comment section as well, inflation not necessarily is exactly CPI. It is probably a lot higher than that. But hey, I will get off this topic for right now. I'm probably speaking a little bit too much out of turn, and we should get back to markets over here. So yeah, we just looked at SPY futures. Go look at NASDAQ futures, more or less the same shit. Again, daily time frame. I mean, if it is going to reject anywhere, this would be the place for it to reject. I don't think it's going to reject. The weekly looks like it's continuing to be bullish to me. This is more or less a chart that wants to continue to grind upwards and onwards. Now, I do want to acknowledge that there is relatively low volatility over here. So at some point, we will get another corrective phase. But I think that it very likely is going to move higher first before we get a corrective phase. And even then, I mean, you got plenty of space for higher lows here. So, you know, this thing continues to trudge upwards and onwards. Wouldn't be surprised to see this thing hit. I mean, fuck, man, what if it hits like $26,000 before end of year? I think at this point it's very much possible, especially with the way that the interest rate game and the money printer is going as of right now. It seems like Jay Powell is starting to capitulate a little bit, or at least that's what I gathered from his last speech at the Fed, that they are very much planning for something like this. So fair enough. We shall see. Time will tell, as always, but it could really align for an explosive end of the year for equities. Now, I do want to state that a lot of the equities that we've been looking at over the past month, as I've been saying, they are looking toppy, especially the AI and tech sector. A lot of them were looking toppy, and we have seen a lot of tops in those ones. So I don't think that those are the ones to be following right now, but still, a lot of the market is actually quite healthy, I do believe, and does still have some upside probably into the end of this year, and then we'll kind of figure out things from there. I'm going to take a sip of this water, then we'll get into some Bitcoins in action. I should also warn everyone that this will be a little bit of a shorter stream, not like a short stream, but you know, we'll probably end it at about 10:30 to 10:40ish region here. What's up, Gallo? How you doing, man? I just came here to rub you my Beyond Meat chart. Wait, what? My rub you my Beyond Meat chart? What the fuck is that, man? Next is my dog. Oh god, here we go, man. Yeah, people still. You know what? Okay, oh god, I need to tell this story. Okay, just one moment. So last night I was enlightened. I was enlightened last night by a new amazing show in the crypto sector, which is effectively the equivalent of Shark Tank but with crypto projects. And it is exactly what you would expect. There are people in very seriously shilling their fucking meme coins to a group of these basically crypto influencers plus Anthony Scaramucci. Anthony Scaramucci is like the only one who is somewhat reasonable on this show. The rest of them are just, it's like, what the fuck? I mean, I saw this guy shill Brett, okay? Based Brett, you know, the Brett token. And this was, by the way, released, I think, in the last few days or the last week, something like this. Okay, I'm talking about this great meme coin right here. You know, the one that we said, hey, this thing's going back to fucking all-time lows many, many moons ago. They shilled it recently. And all of the fucking sharks of this show, all of the sharks except for Scaramucci, were like, yeah, I'm in. This sounds great. Fucking Based Brett. Where do I sign up? You know, it's completely fucking retarded, man. But it just makes me realize that this space is absolute cancer, and probably the only thing that really does matter still is Bitcoin. At some point that will change, I suspect, but unfortunately for right now, it is still a massive joke. It's still a massive joke. It's magic internet money, bitch. That's what it is. Anyways, getting some actual Bitcoins analysis. I got my notes on over here, and we shall start it off from the top as always with some good old price action statistics for, in this case, Wednesday. Wednesday is slightly in favor of positive closures versus negative closures. Again, since the bull market began in 2023. Now, as always, we care about the average the average returns for the winning and losing side of Wednesdays. And what's actually interesting about this is that Wednesday does have the highest positive returns when you do see a positive closing Wednesday at just over 2.5%. On the losing side, it's actually a little bit on the lower side to be fair, but it does lose an average of 1.65%. I do want to once again call out that we have seen the bottom side of the average returns range low, in this case, already hit, and you are getting that bounce. So again, it's like we've seen 1,000,001 fucking examples of this at this point. If you are a short-term time frame scalper, I feel extremely proud, honestly, to say, hey, this indicator, this script right here, I mean, this is just fucking money. It's almost every time you see Bitcoin dip into one of these average return range lows or highs, you do get a scalpable play. It's not a major major home run play. It's not gonna, it's not gonna be multi-$1,000s. Sometimes it is, to be fair, but you almost always get a scalpable move. In this case, you can see the low of the day is 106,883. Bitcoin is bounced up almost $1,500 from that number right now. Sorry, more than $1,500 from this number right now. And again, we saw yesterday actually hit both sides. Both sides presented a scalpable play. First to the downside, as when we were recording yesterday's video, it was actually down around those average returns range lows at 108. Then it rallied all the way up to 114 and sold off on the average returns range high. So you had scalpable plays on both sides there. Again, it's only on the first pass. The second pass is significantly lower probability. But as of right now, if you do have this script and you were watching it this morning, you did have a nice little scalpable play there. I would not take the second pass. Again, in my experience, the second pass is not a high probability bounce or pullback. It's just not. Sometimes it does, yes, but it is not the high probability one. I would not be basing my financial decisions off of that. Now, if Bitcoin does bounce all the way back up to the average returns range high, which is 111,200, then yeah, I would be expecting a pullback on the first pass. I personally think that that's a little bit less likely to happen today, but hey, it is there for you if you are paying attention. Now, I also want to acknowledge, which I believe someone called out in the chat earlier today as well, who was following it, but the daily HPDR move has also played out near just about perfectly as well. This is a perfect example of what I've been speaking about with the HPDR median sort of play, and it is this. It's a really, really high probability play that you almost will always get whenever you see it. And anytime price deviates from the median significantly, when I say significantly, I mean it needs to at least get below or above the average returns range of 50% here. So in this case, it went well below, got all the way down to, I believe, at the maximum about the 77.6 level. Sorry, no, even worse than that, 88.9 level right there. When you see price deviate from it that much, and then volatility starts to contract, which we use the BBWP for this, and whenever it starts to just get a negative slope, that is effectively going to call whatever the lowest price traded was before that signal occurred as the low. So that would have been this low right here. This low, which was 103,310 basically. And we would not expect any sort of a closure below that number until whatever asset you're looking at comes back and at minimum tests the median, which is this sort of white line that my cursor is currently on right now. And you can see that there were, it took some time. It took like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It almost took 2 weeks to test it. But yes, it does indeed happen. And yesterday's rejection came on a perfect test of that median, exactly to about $114 and $55, like literally to the T in this case. And yes, you did get a sell-off from that. Now, it can reapproach that number and actually reclaim it. That is possible, but that was the high quality play. Again, deviate from the median significantly plus volatility contraction equals test to the median before any sort of, major move occurs. In this case, it would be continuation to the downside. Now that we've actually seen this play out on a lower high rejection as well, that does still keep the bearish bias alive here because Bitcoin is within a daily downtrend. And now we can actually move the major point of reversal for Bitcoin down significantly, in my opinion, which would be yesterday's high, basically. So if Bitcoin can just trade above yesterday's high, and especially if it can close above there, but I think in this case, because yesterday's rejection was so emphatic that that we could use probably just a trade above, just one tick above, that would indicate a greater reversal going on, and we should at least be looking for a move back to the deep teens. When I say deep teens, I mean 118, maybe even 120-ish region. But that also is to say I am just going to be maintaining a general bearish bias as long as Bitcoin is below this high from yesterday. Again, 114, 150, or depending upon your exchange that you're looking at. I'm actually on Finex right here. So if we go to the index, it's going to be what? It's going to be 114 and $80. So something like that. If you have access to the HPDR indicator, which actually comes in the same package as the historical price action indicator, well, you can reference that one going onwards and forwards. Again, just reclaiming this number right here, that is going to very likely initiate a pretty nice rally, I would imagine, probably, another, $5,000 to $10,000 higher. Anyways, moving on from there, I do want to once again reiterate that, hey, as long as we are below yesterday's high, it is a bearish bias here, and there's really no reason to believe otherwise. On top of that, we got the old moons firing off. The fucking witches did it again. They did it again, and they've been doing it for the past couple of months here, actually nearly every time perfectly, about 8% to the downside from that signal given to the next major low. This one a little bit less than that, about 7%. Of course, the most recent ones were above 8%, 8.5% right there. And then what was this one? This one was about 783, so close close there. But it's not always guaranteed, of course. But yes, we have seen this far off yet again. If we see another 8% move to the downside from that high, that would put Bitcoin where? That would put Bitcoin at very low 100s, like 102 to 103 region. And that is confluent with a few other things as well. In fact, let's just go over there right now, because with yesterday's rejection, I feel extremely confident that this cross will happen. We are witnessing the 5-day CME chart actually having that same interplay between the red moving average and the yellow moving average. And you've been on this channel now even for the past few weeks. You've seen this play out several times, in fact, where anytime we see those moving averages cross, we get a minimum correction, like a minimum correction down to the green moving average. And these ones are really, 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 really close to doing it. I look at yesterday's rejection as very significant because it keeps you below the point which would automatically force that cross by the next period, which is 111. So as long as Bitcoin's below 111, which I do think it, well, to be fair, a lot can happen in 2 days. So if Bitcoin's still below 111 by the end of Friday, yeah, so 2 days from now, yeah, Friday, then yes, a correction down to the green moving average becomes extremely likely. That would be about $98,000 on this time frame, or a little bit above $98,000. If you go to the weekly time frame, we got the same thing going on here as well. That one's basically the same price, about $99,000. And then we can go to the 10-day time frame, which would be the next one relevant after that. I don't think that one's necessarily close to crossing just yet, but keep an eye on it because that can force targets lower if it does start to happen, or maybe even in the 8-day time frame right here as well. Actually, I haven't checked this one, but this one sometimes does have some really, really good signals. Yeah, we haven't even seen this one really fire off this this cycle, which is rather interesting. But yeah, anyways, back to the 5-day time frame over here. That one is very much in the horizon as long as Bitcoin's below 111, or especially, I would even say 112. We're very likely to see that happen, and that would imply that we are going to see a corrective move down there. Can we get a bounce before then? Definitely possible. Again, look at yesterday's high as a bouncing point, but if that cross happens, I'd be looking for a bounce into a lower high with continuation lower. And of course, it could also just be that it just falls straight to that target first and then bounces. I think that would be actually a more bullish long-term sort of indication to see that move happen to the downside first and then bounce, rather than bouncing first and then down. Because personally, if I see a bounce here into like 118 or so, maybe even 120, and then it fails, we see a we see a major rejection. It comes back down to these numbers here. That to me is going to look like your traditional bull trap. And then I start to really think, oh shit, maybe the 4-year cycle is real. Maybe I should start paying attention. But yeah, fair enough. Anyways, let's also revisit the stochastic momentum oscillators, which we were looking at over here. Again, higher term timeframes are still very much pointed in a very particular direction. Daily time frame is going to continue to the downside as long as Bitcoin's below 107,450, which it's kind of playing around with right now, but technically speaking could cross up. I'd look at this as a very, very weak one right here, to be fair. The reason why is because all other higher term timeframes are still angled in the same direction. The 2-day time frame, which just finished last night, so we got a fresh period right now, has opened continuing down, and that pivot for switching it back to the upside has gone even higher to almost 121,000 US dollars. That means that momentum remains to the downside as long as you are below that number. The 3-day time frame, I believe, has also finished, or sorry, no, that one finished actually yesterday, but this one also continues to the downside again, now getting into the bearish control zone for the first time in a very long time. First time since basically February of this year, where Bitcoin played out a pretty major correction, and that remains to the downside as long as Bitcoin's below $120,000. The 5-day time frame is also continuing down, losing the bullish control zone for the first time since basically May, and that one continues down as long as Bitcoin's below 119, finishes at the end of this week, as does the weekly. These are more or less the same for CME here. So I do look at this as concerning. Of course, higher term timeframes above these are still angled to the downside, like the 2-week and like the monthly. So my sort of rule is generally when we see all these higher term timeframes angled in the exact same direction, I just don't bet on the opposite thing happening. Doesn't necessarily mean that you have to see, the current direction happen, but at the very least, some sideways price action. Just don't be, in my opinion, bullish as of right now. I still think that Bitcoin could play out a nice downside correction here, maybe to even the mid 90s, or maybe even the low 90s, and put in another macro cycle higher low, because that is exactly where our higher lows have been coming in around, is this yellow 21 EMA on the monthly time frame, which as of right now is about very high 80s, to be fair. Also coming in alignment with the price action pivots extension trend line right here, which is in the sort of mid to low 90s, depending upon where you kind of measure it from. But ultimately, these things do still signal to me that it's a time to be more conservative, more cautious and not aggressively looking for a mega massive bull market to be emerging to the upside, at least in the short term. The real question, in my opinion, is does Bitcoin bounce yet again off of the 200 simple right here on the daily time frame, or does it just slice right through? Now, I'm of the opinion that we're probably not going to see it slice right through. I think that you do get some more price action coalescing around this number, but that is about 104. And remember, you can get wicks to the downside and still settle around there, and that would still look like it's actually holding. So it could very well be that we do get, a big wick to the downside, somewhere around like $98,000, and then the day still closes back above this number right here. That to me would still look like it wants to hold. That would actually still look, in my opinion, actually quite good for the long term. But these are all sort of hypothetical situations right now. Of course, until we actually get this price action happening, I can't really, proceed forwards from there. But like I said, we have some really obvious points of interest right now. Yesterday's high is going to be the most obvious point of interest as long as Bitcoin's below there. Yes, it is a short-term bearish buys, probably more likely to test back down around this 200 simple, maybe even a little bit lower as well. But if Bitcoin can trade above yesterday's high, then I do believe we're in for, a pretty decent rally, maybe like 116 to 120-ish region. Let's just call it in the middle, like 118, something like that, with, an open mind that maybe it does just V-bottom out of there, I suppose. But I think that is very unlikely right now. I think it's a lot more likely to spend its time going sideways, consolidating, spending time, again, within this range, which ultimately is a long-term good signal. But we shall see, and I suspect that all of this is really going to take us into, probably the end of November, maybe in the end of December as well, like the end of this year. So yeah, that's it for Bitcoin. Let's now get into some of the old shitcoin action right here. Elsa's already got them lined up in the background. Like I said, it will be a little bit of a shorter stream today, so I do apologize if we fail to get to your super chat, but we'll do our best in the meantime. We've got about an hour from now, and I need to take a little bit of that time to sip on this water. You already know who's first. Nothing's changed here, baby. We got Steven Schickman. He's looking at Dogecoin. The obvious problem with Dogecoin is that, look, if Bitcoin's going to correct lower, then this thing's going to get absolutely fucking killed. Now, at the same point, if Bitcoin does hold its current range, you can't really look for this thing to break down much further from here. But looking at this, I do feel a lot more strongly now that it is going to come back down into the mid to low teens, or sorry, maybe not low teens, but like mid-teens. The range is very much set between the highs of what we saw a couple weeks ago versus the lows that we've been seeing throughout the most of the summer, and I suppose most of this year as well. So that is your range. You're right in the middle of the range after rejection from the top side of the range. I do think that in this case, you're a lot more likely to revisit somewhere close to the bottom of the range. That would be 14 to 15 cents. Nothing really changes for me there. I guess it's not necessarily like long-term mega massive bearish until you're really below like 14 cents. So, it could theoretically still remain within this general channel here. But I do want to acknowledge that the price action pivots indicator is marking this number off here at 18.86 cent. That's what I'm trying to say. This low right here as a nice pivot point, meaning that, hey, if you start to lose this number, then yes, that would be my sort of actionable call that it's going to come down to about 14 or 15 cents. And I would be looking for a bounce somewhere around this region as well, if and when it does get down around there. Looking at the monthly time frame, again, this is really starting to look like a swing high to me. Not great. And of course, the quarterly, I guess there's some hopium here, I suppose, but at the end of the day, it's going to really depend on whatever Bitcoin does. And just like Bitcoin, you can use yesterday's high as a short-term reversal point. I would say the same thing for Dogecoin as well. If you can trade back above about 20.5 cents, I do think that you're in for a decent rally, maybe back to like 22.5 to 23 cents. It's like, big percentage move. Maybe not necessarily the move that you're looking for, but, that would look okay, at least for a short-term rally attempt. I think it's unlikely to happen, but hey, it is possible there, of course. Other than that, we can go look at Ethereum for you because I know that one's coming up next, and I got to actually write on over here. 38.55 is the price as of this moment. I just want to again call out the biggest, most obvious things, because as long as the quarterly remains above basically this low that we've already seen, I think it was in early October at 34.67, I do think that there is hopium for Ethereum. This does not necessarily look like a cycle high to me or anything like that. I think that there's still just general hopium here. And again, Bitcoin's current high right now doesn't necessarily look like a cycle high to me as well. Not that that matters too much, but in this case, whatever the low was from, I believe it was like 2 Fridays ago, is still a major pivot, meaning that as long as you're above there, I think that hopium exists. Below there, hopium gets absolutely fucking killed. You know, it's gone. Dunzo, sunzo. It's bad. And when we go over here to the daily time frame, you know, there is, if you want to be a pattern bro, there is a bit of a symmetrical triangle going on. And if we were to measure out the implied move upon resolution, well, if it comes to the downside with a closure, you know, below basically today's low at 37, what is it, 37.75, 37.76, something like that, we do have an implied move that is lower than that Friday, that mega Friday low from a couple weeks ago. So if that happens, that, in my opinion, would be very significant. Now, I do think there'd be bounce along the way, but, you know, if you come down around here, 32, 3,300, this is definitely a major swing high. I don't know about macro, but it's a major swing high, and I just wouldn't be expecting any sort of major upside price action anytime soon if that happens. Now, of course, could it come to the upside as well? Yes. How would you judge an upside breakout? Just needs to trade above yesterday's high. If that happens, I'd be looking for Ethereum to pop back right around those $4,600 to $4,700 highs. It probably even just goes back to the prior all-time high at that point. You know, I don't really see any major issues with that. Let me get rid of some of these drawings here. I guess it's getting a little bit too convoluted on these charts, but ultimately, it's a lot more close to resolving to the downside than it is to the upside as of right now. Again, until it actually does, you know, resolve, there is always hopium, I suppose, but just be aware. The main point for the upside is yesterday's high, and yesterday's high was 41.12, 4,112 and 70 cents, if you want to be super exact on the index right there. I guess a few good things, you know, daily time frame has seen momentum cross back onto the upside as long as things above 37.59. So there is that, you know, a little bit of hopium, I suppose. But let's see what the higher term time frames say, like the weekly. Weekly is very much angled to the downside as long as you're below 4,700. That's going to be an issue. 2-week time frame is freshly crossed into the downside in the critical zone as well, and will continue to the downside as long as you're below 45.65. So that's not great. 3-week time frame is getting up there into the critical zone as well, about to hit a trendline regression from the last couple highs, by the way. This one finishes at the end of this week, I believe. Yeah, it does. And that one will cross down if Ethereum is below 31.44. So it's very unlikely going to happen on this period, but in the period that follows this one, we will see that pivot very likely go significantly up. And if that starts to turn down, I look at that as a bad signal as well. Then we got the monthly. This one should be up, I'd imagine. Yeah, it should be up as well. Again, going to be hitting a trend line regression, kind of almost see it as well. But yeah, 25.65 is the current pivot. So fair enough. Ultimately, just be aware of yesterday's high. As long as you're below there, I'd be defensive. If you're back above yesterday's high, I think that hopium starts to get initiated. You're going to see Bitcoin above its yesterday's high as well if that were to happen. So as always, it's just easy to follow Bitcoin. Pete's is back. He's looking at XRP 4-hour daily. Sure, man. I got you over here. XRP 240 right now. More or less same chart, you know, especially in the short term is what we've seen with Bitcoin and Ethereum here. And I think that we're going to see a lot of this, to be honest, today. I would not be using yesterday's high as a pivot point. It would actually be Monday's high as a pivot point. This high here at about 255 price action pivot you can see is developing right now. So above there, I would be calling a short-term / medium-term reversal with price action back up to, you know, probably $2.80 or $3. That'll start to look pretty damn good. But for right now, you know, it is a downtrend. It's a downtrend, and the trend is your friend. Or, I mean, maybe it's not your friend because you don't want to see it go down. But yeah, let's go over here and see if there's any sort of divergences to be aware of. Yeah, daily time frame is starting to print hidden bearish divergence right here. Let's see if Bitcoin has it as well. I'm actually not quite... Yeah, I didn't check that out. Yeah, it does not have it for Bitcoin, to be fair, but it does have it for XRP. So, you know, if Bitcoin does head down, XRP probably gets even worse, I suppose. But of course, you know, your next sort of breakdown level is going to be what more or less last week's low, which is 219. 219 below there. This thing gets, again, destroyed, probably down to like $2 even, maybe even 180 or 190, somewhere in that pocket right there. But for right now, you know, I still give things a chance as long as Bitcoin's holding above its major pivots. You know, at the end of the day, it just more or less matters whatever Bitcoin's doing, and these things follow in varying degrees of strength or weakness. In this case, weakness. Other than that, man, looking at the 4-hour time frame, I don't see anything here that is not already telling us on the daily. It is a downtrend. Very likely, in my opinion, this thing's coming back down to like 230, maybe even 2.25. Maybe even just breaks down fully. You know, very possible, I suppose. But yeah, I'd look for Bitcoin to kind of lead the way and this thing to follow. If it does head to the downside, I expect it to do much worse to the downside than Bitcoin although all of them coming down is going to be generally bad. Other than that, yeah, keep your eyes on not yesterday's high. This one would actually be Monday's high. Monday's high is the big one right here, 255. That would be my sort of bias buster for saying, nah, this one's actually going to, you know, head back up to like 280, 290, maybe even $3. Looks okay at that point, but fair enough. And thank you for that, man. I do appreciate that, Mr. Pizza. It's very, very nice. Thinking about the name says daily HPDR bands have reached the minimum target yesterday. So yes, you are referencing this setup over here. In your view, are we done, or are we most likely to test higher at 116 as of today? No, as long as you are below yesterday's high, I look at that as rejection, and it's confirmed rejection. And until you basically reclaim the rejection, it's just, you have to be betting on the side of the rejection. It's just going to be more likely. Now, I do think that there is a bullish view here, because a lot of the time, let me go to like a fresh chart over here. A lot of the time, what you will see is something that my mentor referred to as a 3 spike low. I don't know if this is like I really don't know if this is like a like a known thing, or if it's in the TA books, but this is something that my mentor was like really, really, really big on with the 3 spikes low, where you get low number 1, low number 2, a little bit lower, and then low number 3 should come at low number 2, or maybe even slightly a little bit lower or slightly higher, but you know, somewhere around there, not deviating too much. And if you see a reversal on that low number 3, somewhere around here, let's say like 104, 105, or maybe even it gets all the way down to exactly that prior low, and then you see it reverse really, really quickly, that is a really, really strong reversal signal. But until that happens, and that would imply lower from where we're at today, until that happens, you know, I would be looking at this as, yeah, the rejection is valid. Thus, we should be betting on the same side as rejection until proven otherwise. So yeah, I do think that is possible. But for right now, in the short term, I think that favoring the downside, at least for a retest somewhere around this prior low over here, is the more, the more probabilistic outcome to be betting on, just personally speaking. So yeah, man. Now, if Bitcoin does reclaim this high, I do think 116 is not just not just on the cards, but it's extremely likely. I think it probably even trades higher than that. I'd even think like 120. You know, I think you get back up to 120 at that point. But yeah, we're going like a little bit too far in the weeds right now, like a little bit further out. So I just want to make sure that everyone understands that I'm making a lot of assumptions with this right now. We're talking about hypothetical situations, not like, you know, what's most likely at this exact moment. And then you also come back and you say, also, is it fine if we test the 105 to 106 region first today or tomorrow before going up to 116, 117? I actually look at that as a better thing, because that would be, it's like you read my fucking mind, man. That would be more or less what I just outlined with the 3 spike low. So, you know, you come down here, you spike this area really quickly. It could be at the exact low, it could be slightly higher, maybe slightly lower, but then you reverse really quickly. Like I'm talking about less than 2 days, you see a reversal back above, 110. If you see something like that, that is a very, 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 very strong signal in my book that a reversal is incoming. You're very likely going to see the high over here reclaimed. And at that point, yeah, I would, let's just call it 118, cut it to the middle for a general target to the upside. And would that be a bad thing? No, in my opinion, that's actually the bullish view of this asset right now, or at least the most realistic bullish view of this asset. So yeah, anyways, one moment while I take a sip of this water. Eduardo says, light 1 and 4 hour, please. All right, man, I'll do it. I don't think I've ever seen this this amazing altcoin right here just yet. So you never know. Maybe it's going to be great. It's from BitLight Labs. BitLight Labs, great name. And not bad, because it is very, very new. And when you are in these market cycles, the newer stuff is typically the best stuff, to be fair. So nice. Anyways, in this case, actually, mate, didn't even dump with the market. That's crazy. That is actually a really, really good sign. Here's the thing, man. Look, when we have very new shitcoins like this, I don't think TA matters that much. The problem is that there's just a lack of history. So the best I can do is just go off of trend, which would be to say, look, as long as you're above that last trending higher low, which is about 130, I guess I'd be biased towards upside. But on the other hand, the problem with these things, because they're so fucking new, they can reverse quicker than you can even recognize that the reversal is happening. So, what I mean by that is that there's nothing really holding it from the next dildo just coming crashing down like this. It's like, oh, there goes your uptrend. It's gone. But hey, if you are going to be betting on uptrends for shitcoins, you might as well be betting on the ones that are the newest, because they seemingly have the least amount of shit to deal with, rather than what I'm sure we're going to look at throughout most of the stream, which is older shitcoins that are more more or less fucked no matter what Bitcoin does, to be honest. But yeah, man, it probably has a short-term life, but hey, for right now, I respect the uptrend. The uptrend is valid as long as you're above about 130-ish region. So just let the trend be your friend in this case, but realize when that switches around, it will be fast, it will take no prisoners, and it will absolutely rape your little boy bunghole. Anyways, other than that, Whitloof is saying, congrats with the marriage. I appreciate that, man. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. We do appreciate that. Yeah, just looking at the hourly right here, by the way, as well. I do think you're going to come back down somewhere around like 160 to 150-ish region, hopefully base there, though, and put in a higher low, because this is a consolidation range for right now, at least. Anyways, Clarice says, Mr. Crown, can you please look at Lockheed Martin? Yeah, let's look at, what is it, LMT? Yeah. Let's see, nicey. Yeah, man, we just do one at a time. So we got a lot of people here, and that just is the rules, unfortunately. Anyways, Lockheed Martin, probably the better one to be looking at compared to some Australian shitcoin. And if we go to the higher term timeframes, which you haven't really specified, but I'm just going to guess that's probably what you're interested in. I do look at this as a consolidation range, and you just rejected the range high. So very likely coming down here. I think it's going to reconnect with these moving averages somewhere around like 470, maybe even 460-ish region. But ultimately, this is a major consolidation range, and I'm not bearish on this chart long term. I just think that you might play out a nice sideways range here, doing something like this for a while, and then after consolidating, and reaccumulating, might even take months and perhaps even a year or two. Then at that point, perhaps you do see a real try to the upside, but that's likely coming in a lot later. Overall, long term, this is a beautiful chart. It's an amazing chart, no doubt about that. I just think that you are entering into a nice consolidation range here, which is ultimately a good thing, just not in the short term. So short term, more or less a ranged market. And that's okay. I would say that the range is resolved if you can basically trade back above this month's high and close a monthly above there. At that point, I guess there's no real reason to not be looking for a return to all-time highs and beyond. But until that happens, I think you're going to be working off of these extreme conditions here, and you're going to be consolidating for a while. Anyways, Miss Muradova says, hi, sir. Can you please check out ENA, RIP or Deep? Reap or Deep? Reap or Deep. It's a new game. ENA, yeah, let's check it out. Let's see. Pretty epic bounce off of that crash day a couple Fridays ago. It's a lot closer to that last little swing high than even Bitcoin is right now. That would be what, 50 cents? Just above 50 cents, 50 and a half cents right there. This was Sunday's high, more or less. If you can trade back above there, I do think that this thing will return back up around 60 to maybe even 66 cents, maybe even just, reverses back up. But if we're talking about rip or dip, it really depends on what time frame you're looking at. The thing with this is that, yes, we got the rejection over here. And usually my call after that is, okay, come back down to the bottom side of the range. Well, you did that pretty much all in one fucking massive red dildo. So it makes it kind of difficult now because you have bounced off of that really, really well. I would just be looking for general sideways here, honestly. Whether that comes with upside first and then downside, or whether it's downside first and then upside, or whether it's some combination of these, I think you're generally going sideways at best for a while. That's kind of my point here. I don't think that this thing's going to be moving on its own. But hey, I would mark off again Sunday's high at about just above 50 and a half cents. If you can trade above there, I think that you got some short-term upside for a rip to maybe 60 cents plus. Until then, I suppose I'd be a little bit more in favor of downside. It's just there's not really like a super easy call here. If anything, I guess it would be to the downside first, maybe back down to like 38 cents, but I don't feel very strongly about that. And I always want to be super transparent when I do not feel strongly about something, which would certainly not be this chart because I feel like the easy trades on this one have passed right now. Anyways, Giles DeBosch says, I wish you both a lot of beautiful days to come. I appreciate that, man. Thank you very much. Elsa looked beautiful on picture. I know she was a beautiful bride, wasn't she? And you were okay too. I appreciate that, man. All the best to you, dude. All the best to you, and sincerely appreciate that as well, man. Gallo says, Beyond Meat, how high daily? I don't fucking know the answer to this question, man. There's no way to know. How high on the daily? Whatever the highest price is right now, man. I don't have a crystal ball, man. I don't have a crystal ball. If I'm looking at this chart, it's a down only chart. It's getting one of these one-off pumps. I can only imagine it's going to be. It's like, dude, Gallo, it's like you found your way into traditional markets and then you picked the shittiest looking chart of them all. Look, it's in one of those rally modes, just like your favorite shitcoins get their one-off rallies. I think that this is going to be a one-off rally. Can it go higher first before it inevitably tops out? sure. I think at best it's going to get to the 200 simple here, which is $14, which I mean, that is actually a big move from where it's at right now. But that's like a fucking super hopium scenario. If we go down to the daily time frame, you are already at a major moving average, that blue 377 EMA. You're also on extreme volatility reads right there. I think that this area right here makes it just as much sense as any area to top out again on. Yeah, man, you bought at $2, sold at $4. I think you made a great trade. I think that you are getting caught up in the emotions of the markets, and I don't think that you have a real plan, which is why you're doing this. I feel bad. I feel bad just saying it this bluntly. But look, man, if you don't have a real fucking plan, if you don't know what the fuck you're doing, if you're just trying to play these silly meme stocks, it's just a long-term trend it's just a long-term trend for your accounts to go to zero, man. This is not fucking good. You don't want to be playing shit like this. You don't hold shit like this for a long time. This is garbage. It's fucking garbage. Just like their product is absolute fucking garbage. Do I think it's going to go higher? I mean, it very well could, but this is a good short-term stopping off place. So it should have at least a short-term top here, come back down below $4. If you want to buy this shit again and get absolutely fucking wrecked and reduce what profits that you did make from this, be my guest. But there are certainly more easy trades to make, and this is not among them. These one-off pumps are never a good sign, man. I'm just gonna, I want to be really fucking blunt with anyone. The reason why people fall in love with shitcoins is because they see moves like this, and they're like, oh shit, I can make money really, really fast. Yes, that's true. The problem is that they reverse as fast as they go up. And long term, the longer that you hold this thing, the more and more it's going to go down. It can be so much easier than this. Just find the actual good companies. Insane. Just find a chart that goes up. Literally the opposite chart of this is what you're looking for. Literally the opposite chart of this. But yeah, man, thank you for that. You want to look at dog on gate. Oh God, man. My blood pressure is already rising. Let's see what's going on with my phone as well. Crazy messages in the background. Funnily enough, dog is actually quite difficult to find. I guess it's this on gate. Yeah, on gate. Yeah. Look, absolute fucking garbage, man. Like absolute fucking garbage. Absolute fucking garbage. Nothing at all bullish about this chart at all whatsoever until you're at, I mean, it's not even ever bullish ever, okay? Like to even talk about bullishness on the chart is just retarded because all of these rallies will fail. It'll never go back above this high over here at half of a cent ever. I can almost guarantee you that. I know I really don't like using strong language like that, but goddamn, man, I see you here all the time. I just feel bad. Like, why are you getting sucked into this bullshit? Why? Just go to Vegas, man. Just go to fucking Vegas. Terrible. Just terrible. If you can trade back above this high, maybe you got, a short-term bounce. I think at best fucking hopium base case scenario, you might get back up to 0.3 of a cent. But this is just pure fucking hopium, man. I'm just saying this, in case if by some act of God you do see something like that happen. But at the end of the day, man, this is a macro downtrend. It's been going down only ever since it came about. It will only ever go down ever. It's a lot more likely to come back down and make new lows below your 2025 lows than it is to ever get back above this high ever again. Like literally ever again. So whatever short-term moves you're looking for over here, I just do not fucking understand it, man. Yes, they are going to be volatile moves, but at the end of the day, there's a very large lack of liquidity available to this thing. So if you actually try to get out and you have any size, really, it is not going to be at the price that you want it to be at, and you're probably going to have more issues than what you thought that you were going to have. At the same time, if you really wanted these moves, what you can do is you can just go trade Bitcoin on high leverage. It's not that much better, but at least it's a little bit better, than this. And at the very least, with Bitcoin, you don't have to worry about it, having these absolutely nasty mega dump offs, out of nowhere. You do have, obviously dump offs out of nowhere with Bitcoin as well, but a 1% move on Bitcoin equals like a 10% move on this thing, plus the lack of liquidity when you actually need it. I mean, it's a nightmare waiting to happen, man. You are risking yourself unnecessarily. You are risking it unnecessarily, my good man. Chris Fellow says TAOBOT on Daily Weekly. TAOBOT? This is a new one, I think. I know Tao. I don't know TAOBOT. All right. We shall see. Hey, look, I just want to draw Gallo's attention to this one. It's like, look, man, if you do want to play shitcoin roulette, you might as well choose the newer shit. Now, this one will probably, fail miserably, over a long enough period of time. Of course, just the natural life cycle for these things. But at least it did have kind of an uptrend here. Anyways, as far as this highly esteemed asset goes, is this going to be the next lower swing high right here in the context of a downtrend? It's very likely that, yes. All major moving averages are switching into a bearish posturing. Momentum is pointed to the downside. I think that this is going to be your high for a long time at 47 cents. Is it possible that you would claim that number? Sure. I suppose it is possible, right? Anything's possible at the end of the day, but as long as you're below there, I'm betting on this one coming back to the downside, probably coming back down and unraveling most of this rally. I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing back down around 15 cents, in the coming month or two. But hey, if I'm wrong, I'm going to be massively wrong, and you'll know that I'm wrong because it'll be getting back above Sunday's high at 37 cents above there. I do think that you put in a sizable rally into the 50s, maybe even 60-cent numbers, and this one would still have a chance because at the very least, it does have some macro higher lows here. You got several higher lows, in fact, and you more or less tested that same sort of trend line recently. So this could be argued in the most bullish of bullish scenarios as something resembling an ascending triangle, which is just a long-term uptrend. And in this case, it actually would be wise to be betting on upside. But fair enough. We shall move on from there and get into Mr. Stefan Milosevic says, congrats on your marriage. I appreciate that, man. AZO stock. Yeah, let's get into some real stonk action analysis. And you're looking at just general analysis, any price targets on the downside. It's very difficult to talk about targets or anything like that, especially when we don't have any time frames as usual. But I don't know. I guess that statement always just gets maybe misheard, perhaps. Let's go over to this chart, actually. This would be maybe better for stonks or stonk action activity, AutoZone. There we go. And let's go to the weekly or maybe even the monthly here. Monthly, I mean, that can very well be argued as a swing high, of course. I already have traded below the low of it, and I'm sure that there is some bearish divergence for me right here. I'm glad that I went to this time frame. I do think that this one is going to be coming down from here. Now, this can take many months to happen because this is a monthly time frame after all, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it come back down to like 35.50. If things get really crazy, maybe down to like 3,200, in the next 3 to 12 months. I mean, it could be a very long time. I really don't know your time frames for this. At the same point, very high term time frames like a quarterly time frame are starting to show bearish divergence as well, especially in the more recent months right here. So that's not great. And over the long term, it's also kind of playing out the same trend. So it doesn't really look like a top to me yet for the macro, but if and when this one starts to play out, those downside corrective targets can be extended significantly. I would say to the upper twos to maybe even mid twos, something like that. Could get quite nasty there. In the short term, do I think it's going to bounce here? I think that you actually do attempt to bounce in the short term, but I don't think that's what you're necessarily looking for. I think that this thing's a lot more likely to come down. And, if you're looking at it as a long-term hold for an asset, I think that's actually a great idea. I just think, you're going to be coming down a lot more. And it's going to take a long time to really occur. So it's not really a pressing concern right now. If I was holding this thing for a while, I'd probably be taking at least, 20 to 30% profits off the table. And I just want to be really, really open about this as well. In traditional markets, for a lot of my long-term holds, in recent times, I have taken 20 to 30% off of my major positions, just because they've been up so much, and I want to have a little bit of cash on the side. Yes, they are sitting in a money market after all, but I do think that a lot of things are looking like they could be on the verge of some pretty decent corrections in which maybe you'll be able to buy like 5 to 15% lower, which in traditional markets that's like pretty significant actually. Anyways. Moving on, we got Chris Vella back again. He's looking at RGTI. Let's check it out. RGTI, Rigetti Computing on NAS. We've seen this one a few times. Similar to the last few ones, I do think that this one is topped for a while here. We've seen a lot of these I'm guessing this is a tech stock. It is on NASDAQ after all, so very likely. We've seen a lot of these things, getting into some major highs, and I think that this thing has topped as well, at least for a swing top on the weekly and perhaps even the monthly, but we got major bearish divergence here. We have a reversal dildo plus follow through on this week. I think that you're at least coming down to 24 to 24 and a half bucks. Probably at least a bounce there. It could come down lower as well, maybe to like the high teens, I suppose, but generally speaking, I think that your rally is over for now. Long term, it very well may continue long term. It's very, very possible. But I do think that you've hit a swing high on your daily and weekly. Monthly may continue, into early 2026. That's possible for sure. But I do think that you're in a corrective period until then. And very likely to come down here. Again, you're working off extreme conditions on volatility as well. This is as good a place as any for a swing high, in my opinion, to play those out. So yeah, I'd be looking for a correction here, man. Cloud the Busy says, congratulations on your marriage. Appreciate that, man. Very much appreciate that. Also, Walmart, WMT on the weekly, please. Got it. We got some You know what's really funny is that all of the fucking Europeans that I lived around, they all really wanted to go to Walmart. Whenever like I'd bring it up, Elsa wants to go to Walmart. She's like, "Can we go to Walmart today? Can we go to Walmart?" It's like, no. Why do you want to go to fucking Walmart? and Target. Target, I can understand. Target's quite nice, but also my boxing coach, he would always be like, I just want to go to Walmart. He doesn't sound like that. I can't do his accent. At all. But that's he was really wanting to go. I don't know why. Anyways, Walmart. Overall, very good here. Like obviously, this is a beautiful long-term chart. Beautiful, amazing long-term chart. And to be fair, actually, when I'm on the monthly here, I don't think it's topped. I do think that this one has more upside. I think that it could maybe spike up to like 120 and then pull back when we're talking about like the more long term over the next few months. If we're on a daily time frame, do I think it's hit a little bit of a short term swing high here? Yeah, of course. But it can come back down to 104, maybe even 102 and put in a higher low. So I don't look at this as like concerning or nothing like that. Weekly, yeah, again, a short term pullback, reconnect with maybe 104 is completely fine. Ultimately, I think that I'll still be betting on new highs for this one into the end of this year. I don't think that is topped just yet. All higher term timeframes still have a little bit more, I would think. So it's probably getting closer for like an interim high. But again, when you have a chart like this, it's like it's just going to be good long term. So while I do think it has more high to go and it pulls back after that, it's like it might just pull back to where it's at right now, to be honest with you. So these sort of things is why, in my opinion, if you're looking for long-term investments, shit like this is a great idea. It's not the best of the best, but it is certainly, more dependable than your average crypto shitcoin. That's not true. I want my dog coin. My dog coin needs to go up. I need to buy. I've seen it go up 20% in one day one time. It only goes down 90% after that, but that's fine. 50% up in one day, no problem. Amazing. I'm going to trade that perfectly and become rich as fuck overnight. Fucking overnight. Oh, baby, I'm getting rich overnight. Holy fucking moly. I love it. Rich overnight and then poor within 1 second. Amazing. Just fucking amazing. Anyways, For Life says SRPT on the daily weekly. What would you be looking for as a potential bottom? Sometimes there is no bottom, but let's see. All right, so this is a real stock, it looks like. What would I be looking for on a bottom? I think that you have hit a swing low right here. For sure. Like it should trade up from here, but just because I think it's hit a low here doesn't mean it's going to be like, oh, it's hit the low and then it goes straight back up. I think that's unlikely, man. I think that's unlikely. This thing does not have the same sort of history as, for example, what we just looked at, Walmart, where you kind of have an understanding that long term it is generally going up. This thing, not as much. So while I do think it's hit a major low here, retesting these prior lows from almost 10 years ago, actually literally 10 years ago, you're very, 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 very likely to put in a swing low here and bounce, over the next year. I don't think you're going to be doing anything super significant to the upside anytime soon. Now, when I say super significant to the upside, I mean like popping back up to these highs that you saw from 2024 and beyond, making new all-time highs. I think that, at best, you're going to be doing something like this, ranging on the lows for a while, and then, let's say it holds it for like a year and a half or 2 years, then maybe it tries another upside move. But yeah, I do think you are more or less done going to the downside for now, meaning that whatever low you saw in July of this year, probably going to be your low for a long time. It might come back down to a retest around it. I just don't think you're going to be closed on new lows. You're also going to be working off of extreme volatility conditions over here as well, which just don't happen that often on a monthly time frame. So yeah, it probably spends a lot of time, working off of these extreme conditions, and then I'd be looking for, probably a very sizable bounce actually, maybe even back into the uptrend. But yeah, to answer your question, I do think it's bottom. I just think it's not going to be doing anything super interesting for a while. You bought around $17. I think that's fine, man. I think also, if you want to trade it, I don't hate that for a trade right here as well, because I do think in the short term you will pop back down after hitting that red moving average, which you more or less have this month. So, I think it's a good trade, honestly, man. I think it's a great trade that you made there. Pricey says, Palantir stock daily, weekly, monthly. Sure, man. Again, full disclosure, I do hold this thing myself. And this thing just will not fucking correct. This thing, this thing is playing me like a fool. I wanted to buy more of you, but you won't let me buy you. You won't let me buy you because I won't get too aggressive enough. Yes, I was looking for a deeper correction here, close to like 160-ish region. It's like, it won't even give me that. Fucking bastard, man. Fucking bastard. Good thing I already own it, but just wish I owned a lot more. overall, it's like, is this a high right here? Look, it's getting real fucking close, man. God damn. Just like, you just don't see this kind of stuff. You just don't see this kind of stuff on your higher term timeframes often at all. Look, I'll tell you what I think is probably not even useful, but as long as you're above 160, I have to be bullish on this thing. Below 160, I could be looking at this as a major high, or a little bit below 160, let's say. But for right now, this thing's threatening another breakout. It's looking like a cup and handle right here. If anything, you got your little cup, you got your handle, very, very shallow as well. So that is objectively quite bullish. I mean, that would have an implied target. Let's see upon resolution. So resolution would be above 190, and that'd have an implied target of like 230 to 240. I mean, it just gets fucking crazier, man. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Again, I would switch around really, really, really quickly and be very happy for a deeper correction if it can come back down below it's a little bit below 160. Let's call it like 158 and close a weekly below there. At that point, I do think we get at least the correction that I've been looking for, which is going to be down to like 120-ish region. But until then, man, this is a lot closer to breaking out than it is to breaking down. It's had so many chances to sell off of these highs as well, and it continues to just grind up around there. I mean, it's above all major moving averages. I can't hate this. I mean, it's not that I hate it at all. It's just I have to be biased towards upside continuation at this point. Crazy, man. Fucking crazy. And thank you for that, man. I appreciate that. Bon voyage. Head. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Gallo says, who are your mentors now in investing? It's a really good question, man. So in investing, honestly, this is now kind of crazy, man, but probably maybe not my best mentor, but a very valuable mentor has been ChatGPT. But then again, I asked ChatGPT to reference other people's knowledge. But I like to listen to the likes of Charlie Munger. He is my favorite one, not necessarily because his information is super valuable for today's market. It still is in a way, yes, and Warren Buffett for that matter. But his just general sort of life advices are super, super useful, man. Like a lot of these investors are basically philosophers in a way. As far as other things, who do I listen to? I don't like to listen to people. I like to learn financial literacy. That's what I like to do. I like to get a financial education. So for that, my go-to guy, my number one guy, he's the best of the best. Everyone fucking knows him, but he really is, in my opinion, the fucking king is Ray Dalio. I love Ray Dalio. I love everything that he disseminates because you can tell that this is a guy who really fucking went through the ring of fire and did it over a long period of time, all verified, all valid. And now in his old age, as he steps back, he legitimately seems like he just wants to give away this information. Yeah, he sells his books. Yeah, he sells, I think he has courses as well. That's fine, man. I want to learn from someone like that. I pay for all of his shit because I want to be learning from someone like that because he's as tried and true as it gets, man. He's as tried and true as it gets. So those are super useful because he goes over principles. He goes over principles that doesn't necessarily say like, hey, you should buy, this stock right now. No, it's like, here's what you should be looking for. Here's how you should be kind of thinking about your strategy. Here's how you should, analyze these sort of things and also reflect upon these sort of things. Here's the framework for success. That's incredibly useful to myself. So he's the main guy that I reference for these things, man, in investing for the long term, especially. As far as like, stock pickers and shit like that, I haven't found anyone I don't really like look for that kind of shit, to be honest. I'll actually tell you my sort of, I guess, I don't know, what would I say? Like my sort of strategy there? I guess my strategy is I will first sort of lean into a narrative. So it might be like defense technology, for example. Then I'll go to ChatGPT and give it a bunch of prompts about, hey, can you help me find like mid-cap stocks, around this sort of level, who are specialized in this, who actually have revenues and yada, 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 whatever the hell I'm looking for. And then I will compare all of those and apply my technical analysis knowledge to the charts. And once I can do that, then I can usually figure out, okay, this is the one that actually is looking quite good. That's how I found, for example, this stock right here. Now, again, I did sell a lot of this stock a little bit above $100. But again, I found it because of ChatGPT and it was below $30 at the point. I think it was even like $25, something like this over here. Crazy shit, man. So when you can combine your own technical analysis knowledge, it doesn't need to be anything that crazy. I mean, this was just an obvious chart that wanted to break out, grinding up against these highs on a higher low. But when you can combine that knowledge with a sort of fundamental analyst, which is ChatGPT, is fucking polymath and that shit, you can really combine to make 1 + 1 = 11 rather than 1 + 1 = 2. It's amazing. Anyways, Ibrahim Pal says shitcoin good. I lose hope. YFI on Coinbase. I don't really understand what you're trying to say, but I think that's a ticker. You're in finance. Okay, cool. I remember this one from 2021. I'm guessing it's probably great right now. Yeah, amazing. Exactly what you expect from a 2021 shitcoin. This is what you can generally look forward to. Goes up once, then down only after that. And everyone's stuck back in the mindset over here thinking that that's just going to happen, again. And it does not, unfortunately. Look, Hopium should have been lost on this one very, very long ago. Whatever this high was over here from December of last year, I think I don't think you ever get back above that high ever again, personally. This is bearish by every metric, by every standard on the higher term timeframes. Yes, you might have your short-term timeframe bounces. Yes, every once in a while it will go on one of these epic rallies, but they all fail. They all fucking fail. Every rally fucking fails. Every rally fails. Every rally fails. You are back down around the same lows that you've been having for the past, 3 years? Yeah, since 2022, while the rest of the market was in bull market mode, making new ultimate highs. Okay, maybe not even the rest of the market, just Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is enough. And now you're putting a descending triangle on the lows. So this is a bearish continuation pattern. It is significantly more likely to continue to make new lows rather than ever break out ever again, above this high right here. But like I said, you might get one of these one-off pumps, in which case you're going to fucking hate me for saying that, because it might very quickly move up here like, fuck you, Crown. I knew it. I fucking knew my YF coins are going to make me rich. I'm going to be so rich overnight. Overnight fucking riches, Crown. Fuck you. Haha. Yes, I did it. And then boom, just as fast as it started, it ends. And of course, because greed is what gets you into these things, greed is what forces you not to get out of these things when you actually have a chance to get out of them. So yeah, man, again, I'm not talking shit about you. I'm just talking shit about these charts, as we typically do on this channel. But overall, just terrible. Among the worst charts we've seen today by far. And then you're also looking at IQ. You're in at 205. Nice. Well, maybe not nice. I don't know. Is it this thing here, I'm guessing? You're in at 205. Well, that can't be right, because this thing is trading at 0.2 cents. So hopefully not correct. Maybe it's this thing here. Maybe this is the same thing. Yeah, this is the same thing. So maybe it's an actual stock. All right. Hopefully it's a stock. This seems about right. Yeah, you're in at 205. So you bought a little bit on this rally right here. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. Again, you've been in a bull market for all of 2023 to 2025, and this thing has only gone down during that time. That's just a terrible sign, man. It's just god awful. Now you're in profit right now by a little bit. I mean, if it was me, I'd be getting the fuck out. Don't buy downtrends. Don't buy downtrends. This thing is very likely to come back down to these lows, maybe even make new lows over a long enough period of time. Only way I'd change my mind is if this thing popped back. I mean, it needed to do so much work here. I was going to say, maybe if it reclaims this high at 284, you got a shot at like 380, but I'm not going to be calling a reversal here when this thing has only ever gone down in a fucking bull market. Like, that's pathetic, man. Not you are pathetic, but this thing is pathetic. And you made a good trade. I mean, you're in profit right now, so can't hate that, but I don't know how long that profit's going to last, to be honest. Yeah, at some point you probably do get a shot towards the 200 simple here. It just might be in like a few months, might be in a few years, who knows. But yeah, same thing on that one. If it pops up there in the short term, if it's more like a few days rather than a few months, you're going to hate the shit out of me and be like, fuck you, Crown. But again, that would be a great place for any one of these one-off rallies to fail. And I mean, I think that this one fails from here anyways. Again, looking at the weekly RSI, I mean, you already have significant hidden bearish divergence between the highs of May 2024 over here and the significantly lower high right here. I mean, these are like 50% away from each other. That's very bad, in my opinion. Very, very bad. Jack Feely says, morning, Crown. What's up, man? Please, useless on the 4 hour. Gotcha. Useless coin, yes. This one will definitely be great. But to be fair, a lot better than most of the shit coins we've seen today. In fact, actually among the best of them that we've seen today, to be fair. Anyways, always can't speak too fast there. Anyways, yes, so I know you said 4 hour, but I need to go higher term time frame just to get an idea of like what the general trajectory is here. Okay, so you are in one major consolidation range, right? If we go to the weekly time frame, something like this on your highs. I put this as your midpoint for your lows right now. And I even think that you're consolidating between the highs and this midpoint right here. So that's actually quite a good sign, to be fair. Now, if you're specifically asking about the 4-hour time frame, I don't have a strong opinion because it's right in the middle of this range. I do think personally it's more likely to come back down to about a quarter, somewhere around here, and then bounce. Actually, I don't think it's going to break below there, at least not on the first pass. But I don't have strong opinions on this. My strong opinion is on if it breaks above about 43 cents, which is your highs. So it's not that helpful, to be honest. But if you can do that, then this thing should actually be on a screaming rally towards significantly new all-time highs, which most of these shitcoins are nowhere fucking near. So this one is definitely in a class of its own as of right now. By the same token, generally, as long as you're above about a quarter, I think this one's fine. It's okay. I just think in the short term, you're probably going to come down close to a quarter and bounce there. If you want to get super in the weeds with this thing, on the 4-hour time frame, we do have a bit of a rising channel right here. So these generally do break out to the downside. There would be an implied move on this one as well. Let's see what it'd be. Yeah, it'd be back down around about a quarter. So that will be initiated if you start to close below yesterday morning's low, which is almost 30 cents, a little bit below 30 cents, something like that, man. Hopefully that was helpful. Adam Kalane says, big congrats, sir, and miss. Thank you, Mrs. Sir. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Super on the weekly and monthly. Sure, man. Yeah, we haven't done super just yet. Let's see. I remember we looked at this one last month and I said, this is starting to not look too good. And yeah, I would say the same thing right here, man. Look, I love Elliot. I know Elliot very, very well, but at the same time, I'm always going to give you my unfiltered opinion on a chart, and I don't like it. I really don't like it now. I think that back over here in July, so basically in the summer, you could have made an excuse for it and been like, hey, this very well could be reversal in the making. But that was a significant rejection right there, and I do believe that this thing is probably going to break down actually below this sort of 37 cent-ish low. Is it going to break down on this current move that we're seeing right here? That I don't know. I really don't know. It could take longer, might take another couple months to happen, but it does look to me like this one is getting ready to actually plunge, below these lows that you've been seeing for like the past year. So, if that happens, it might be a quick shot back down to like 20 or 15 cents, something like that, man. It could be very, very quick as well. Other than that, I need to, as always, put out some potential reversal considerations. Maybe in the short term, you try a little bit of a bounce here as possible, but you actually have a super easy reversal condition right here. So remember, whenever you get a really, really nasty rejection, like we saw back here, and I remember this one, we were recording during this day, and we said, hey, this is not good. This is not fucking good. But when you get a rejection like that, it does produce a major pivot point, meaning that if you can reclaim the high of this one, then you have an extremely, extremely strong reversal. Now, I don't think that reversal is happening anytime soon. Maybe possible, not even ever. I mean, you never know on these things. But as long as you're below there, I have to be objectively bearish on this thing. I just have to be. It is what it is. But yeah, let me go back to regular scale. Yeah, this is going to be a little bit more accurate right here. Again, more revealing on the linear scale. But yeah. Anyways, I'll get over to the regular chats as well. Like I said, we are... Oh. I just did super, but I think we have... Or I see... Hey, what's up, Crypto Face? Holy shit, man. My fucking man, Crypto Face. By the way, guys, check out Crypto. If you know me, you probably already know Crypto Face. good fucking man over there. You're looking at Race Ferrari and Google. Wait, what? I think. Wait, is Race? Oh, is Race an actual ticker? I don't even know, man. It's Ferrari. Holy shit. Let's check it out. I've actually never even looked at it, man. What the fuck just happened right there? Jesus Christ, dude. Overall, this is very likely a major high going in here, but I don't know, man. Would I be super bearish on it long term? Maybe not. I do think you probably have a correction down to like 350. That's okay. Yeah, quarterly looks like a high to me for a long time, man. Got quarterly bearish divergence as well. I think you're at least coming down to like 330 to 350. Probably a short-term bounce there. I personally think you will come lower after that, maybe to $300, but that would be a great place for a macro high or low. Google probably an easier chart, to be honest. Bullish as fuck on the long term, this quarterly time frame. If it does have a correction and you see somewhere down around like 222, I think that would be a gift from God. Monthly time frame still bullish. Weekly time frame's bullish. I think that this thing's just going to grind a new all-time highs, man. This is fucking good. If it does correct, like I said, 225 is where I'd be looking towards, and I think that would be a gift from God at this point. Powerful as fuck, man. See what a Fibonacci extension would suggest for potential areas of interest going forwards. I guess the next major one would be like 265 region, 265-ish region. So probably at least a short-term correction there, but is it even going to show anything on a monthly? I don't know. At this point, I'm not really surprised to see this thing get closer and closer to $300. But yeah, I mean, you just had quarterly bullish divergence confirmed. Well, I guess it wasn't necessarily just, but on this last local low right here, I think that this one's going to trade higher overall before you get a really nasty correction. But yeah, overall, really fucking strong, man. Good to see you, by the way, man. Check out Crypto Face. This guy is fucking crazy. He trades the biggest positions live that I've ever seen ever. It's actually insane. It's actually fucking insane, man. Fucking insane, dude. Anyways, so Schwab says, congrats, Crown and Elsa. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thoughts on Amazon? Nice. We're getting deep into the traditional market zone right now. Let's see. Not as strong as Google. Definitely not as strong as Google. I'm guessing earnings are either out or coming out soon. Overall, long term, I'm going to like this chart, obviously. But do I think you could correct down to like $200? And do I think that would be a likely higher low? Probably yes. You got a pretty obvious breakout point here as well. If you do trade back above the September highs, that would be 238 or 238.5. Back above there, I'd look for this thing to put in a pretty nice move, actually, probably up to 275, $300. Not on the same day, obviously, but we are looking at a monthly after all. But if we go down to a daily time frame, I do think you're more likely to correct a little bit lower first before trying any sort of consistent upside. But yeah, again, higher term time frame still bullish, shorter term time frames more corrective. Do you see this gap filled over here at like 195 to $200? I think it's very possible, and I think that would also be a nice correction and a very nice higher low if it does get down around there. So that's where I'd be kind of aiming around if I was trying to get a position in this thing. But just looking at the higher term time frames, definitely don't hate it. Definitely am going to like this long term. It's one of those charts where it's like, all right, I think I think I'd rather be just bullish long term and not get too cute with the correction here. So I'm getting some important text right now. All right. I think we'll have about 10 more minutes on this stream. Then we'll have to head on off. Like I said, a little bit of a shorter stream today. But I'll go down here. Google was one of my top performers this year. Yeah, man. Google is just, it's the king for a reason, man. It's king for a reason, my man. All good, man. All good. And I appreciate that, man. All the best to you, dude. All the best. Low energy Fin. Yes, low energy Fin. This is who I'm looking for. BNB versus Ethereum. All right. Well, I know BNB versus the dollar was looking okay. Yes, low energy Fins. Not good. Very low energy. Very European. Hidden bullish evidence on this current low that's being formed. I think that you're actually going to try for a higher low right here. I'm going to fucking die one day when I'm sneezing. It's crazy how intense it is. Anyways, short term on a daily, I think that you will try a little bit of a bounce here. I'm definitely not convinced that this is going to be a bounce that brings you back, above 33 cents. 33 butyrols, whatever the hell this thing's called. Long term, it's bullish. The question to me is, does it bottom here and just up only, or do you actually correct lower first to 22 or whatever the hell this denominating currency is, and then go up? I really don't know. Short term, like very, very short term, I do think that you try bounce back up towards 30-ish. Whatever that number is. Joey Burden says, congrats you too. Thanks, man. Did you look at NVIDIA? No, we haven't. We haven't looked at NVIDIA, man, but I'm loving this stock market action here. It's been a lot more interesting in cryptos. Anyways, NVIDIA, look, it's a short-term high. I'm not going to be necessarily bearish on it long-term, but I do think it comes down from here a bit. 170-ish region is a great place for a higher low. You got some bearish divergence on low volatility. So I think that that's a setup here for a try a little bit lower than where you're at right now. But you got higher lows on the macro, all the way up to a monthly, all the way up to a quarterly as well. So if it comes down to these numbers, I think that at the very least you're going to get a big bounce. Maybe it's just the next macro higher low, but I wouldn't necessarily be getting like full on bearish on these things. I just think it's a correction for right now. If it starts to really violate below like 160, okay, then maybe it is a real reversal and we're going to be getting some real downside in this thing back down to like 125 or 130. But I wouldn't be betting on that right now. This is a similar touch of Google. It's like it just goes fucking up. You don't want to be betting against it really. When you do get corrections, you want to treat it as corrections within the context of a macro uptrend rather than like major macro reversals, at least until proven otherwise. And this thing would have a very long ways to go to prove it as of this point. I mean, for fuck's sake, the last quarterly low was $85. I mean, how crazy does it get? So yeah. Anyways, we got some pencil neck action going on here. Wyckoff distribution happening with Bitcoin. Are you starting to DCA out of your Bitcoin? For my long-term holds, I just have a rule where I hold it no matter what. I don't care what it does. It's just intended to be at minimum 10 years. So I won't touch it until, when I first started accumulating was about 2020, 2019. So that'll be 2030. But again, these are funds. This is money that I do not need liquid right now. I don't need it liquid right now. Sorry, I need to respond to this text message really quickly. Just one moment. We will. All right, cool. Okay, there we go. All right, Tesla. Yeah, we can look at Tesla really quickly. Why not? Tesla, TSLA. Again, full disclosure, I do hold this one as well. Is it going to correct here first and then break out, or does it just break out from here? That's the real question. I really don't know on this one. If it does want to correct, I'd be looking somewhere around 380, but I'm not convinced that it wants to correct first. Maybe it comes down in the short term, back down around like 415, 410-ish region, but that's not crazy. Yeah, I really, look, I'll put it this way, and I'll tell you exactly what I'm doing. I'm holding this thing. I hold it for much lower, but yes, I am holding this thing right here. I don't mind if it comes down to 380. That's fine. I only have problems with this thing if it's below about 350 or 360. Until then, I look at this as an uptrend, and it's emerging into a breakout as well. I look at this as very, very good, actually, in fact. So, yeah. We got earnings today for this one. IONQ stock. Let's check it out. All right, we're gonna end this in about 5 minutes, I think. Then we got to get going. This one has topped. This one is putting in a swing high right here. Bearish divergence on the monthly. I think you're gonna probably reconnect relatively soon with that 5 EMAs. So that's about $50. Probably gonna initiate a pretty big bounce from there as well. I would imagine into November. But I'd be looking for this thing to correct significantly down first before anything else. Now, long term, I actually don't hate this thing. I just think that, you're going to get something like this. It's going to get quite complicated here where you come down, big bounce, come down again, base somewhere in this vicinity here. Hopefully that's going to be your next macro higher low. But with the way that this rally was and how, intense it was, I do expect that it's going to take a while for it to really figure itself out and consolidate. So I wouldn't be rushing to get into this thing. But yeah, it's been an epic run. I think it's done for a while, man. LYFT, yeah, we can do LYFT, and then we'll do Zcash, fucking Zcash. Zcash sounds like some sort of gender neutral cash thing. It's that's exactly the kind of cash that some fucking purple haired freak would make. It's my name is Z and it's cash. Sounds legit. Amazing. Fucking amazing. Yes. Anyways, LYFT, don't like it over the long term. Definitely don't like it over the long term, but it is switching into an objectively bullish posturing with these major moving averages on the weekly time frame. What about the monthly? Yeah, this is what I don't like about these sort of charts. It's look, the weekly is suggesting a reversal is underway here, but the monthly, which is a higher term time frame, which should supersede that, is getting rejected as of right now from that green 55, which is exactly where you'd be expecting your lower highs in a downtrend. And this one is in a downtrend on the monthly time frame. So I can make an argument for both sides. I typically side with the time frame that is higher. So in this case, yeah, I think that you probably do put in a major high right there. But you'll know that I'm massively fucking wrong on this thing, and it actually is reversing quite simply. In fact, if it just trades and closes a weekly above $23.50 at that point, I think that you actually have a pretty sizable rally, probably closer to 30 to maybe even $35, low 30s at least, if that were to happen. But again, it's never really reversed, so we don't, I wouldn't be betting on it right now. What are you laughing at, huh? What are you laughing at? Yes, the comments are funny. Haha, funny. Anyways, we'll do one more, then we'll call it a day. Let's do ZDERP. Zcash, yes. Zcash, amazing name. Zcash and Zercash and fucking HPDR cash as well. Look, this is, in my opinion, this is as good of a place as any for a nice pullback. You're retesting around a prior high. It's a nice round even number as well at $300. Extreme volatility reads right here. I mean, that could go on for a while longer. Some pretty crazy RSI reads right here on a monthly. I don't know how much of that matters though at this point. I could easily see this thing grinded up against this high at $300 or low $300 a few more times and then coming back down. But I think that you're done going to the upside in a significant manner for a while. Yeah. But I'd be really close to changing my opinion on this thing. I really would. I really would actually be close to changing my opinion on this thing if you could just trade above that May 2021 high and close a monthly above there. If you can do that, I actually would look at this as a confirmed reversal with big upside price action. Anyways, guys, I gotta go. We are actually massively late. Got to meet up with my parents because they flew into town just for our wedding, and so we're gonna go see them off. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone here as well for all of the well wishes. It's been unbelievably overwhelming. It's like I want to respond to everyone and be like, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It really does mean a lot. It's brought some tears to our eyes. It's been truly amazing, and I just can't thank you enough for that. And we will be back on tomorrow with another regular video analysis. We'll do another live stream on Friday, of course. Been really enjoying these live streams. So I hope that you can join back in on that one as well. And other than that, just wishing you the best as always. Take care. Much